Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up some really fascinating source material. It's about one of the most basic things driving us, that search for safety. But we're going to look at a perspective that just completely flips our understanding of what safety or certainty actually is. It's a powerful way to see things.
That's right. The sources, they present this idea where certainty and uncertainty aren't really opposites, not in the way we usually think anyway. Their relationship is much more paradoxical. We're going beyond just wanting stability. We're
Yeah.
digging into why we build our lives like we do. And spoiler alert, it turns out that maybe everything we trust isn't quite as solid as we think.
Okay, right. Let's maybe start at the very beginning then. Like when a baby is born, what's the main thing parents want for that child? It's pretty simple, really. To raise him, protect him, make him feel stable, strong. It's all about giving him a sheltered space.
And that shelter, in this context, it means one thing: certainty. All the effort goes into building up the certainty in that child's life. Certainty of food, yeah. A roof over their head, school, maybe college later on. Just laying down these bricks, these building blocks to make sure their adult life feels solid, secure.
So if you trace it back, really trace back all the things people do, the deep down goal seems to be, well, drawing lines, building something solid, making things feel steady and safe, like finding certainty right in the middle of all life's uncertainty.
And you see this in really obvious ways. Money, for instance. A steady job, a salary, that gives you stability, security, certainty. It takes away that immediate worry about just surviving, right? But it goes way beyond that. Think about mortgages, savings, retirement plans, college funds. We're all desperately trying to answer those future questions. Where are we going to live? What about the kids? What's happening next year, 5 years from now?
Right. So whether someone's grinding through med school or working crazy hours at a job, what they're really doing deep down is building, brick by brick, just adding more and more areas of certainty for themselves, trying to future-proof their lives, kind of.
And this whole drive, it comes from our deepest anxiety. I mean, there's really nothing that shakes the human mind more, nothing that causes panic faster than that feeling of not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. What will we eat? Where will we live? The worry just, it never really stops, does it? Even when things seem okay on the surface.
Yeah, that makes sense. Stability for ourselves, for our kids, we basically treat it as the same thing as certainty. So every big life decision, going to college, learning a trade, choosing where to live, it's all a step towards getting more certainty. If this job pays more, you take it. If this neighborhood feels safer, even if it costs more, you move there. It's all about maximizing certainty.
Exactly. You could say every action is basically trying to build something solid, like building a little island, some land you can stand on, right in the middle of this huge, choppy ocean of water.
Okay, and that image, the island in the water, that leads us straight into this analogy the source material uses. It even references Genesis, right? And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters.
Mm-hmm.
So the starting point, the original state, it was all water.
Right. And in the analogy, water just means uncertainty. You step on water, you sink, there's nothing holding you up. Land, on the other hand, that's certainty. Solid ground under your feet, you feel safe. And we spend our lives trying to, push the water back and make more land.
But this is where it gets really interesting because the source material just flips that whole idea around. It introduces this huge conceptual twist. If the original state was all uncertainty, all water, what does that actually imply about the water itself?
Well, it implies something pretty radical, that the uncertainty, the water itself, that's actually the absolute certainty, because according to the source, there's this knowing element. It refers to it as he, who knows how it all ends and can, well, change anything along the way.
Wow, okay.
Uh-huh.
That's really hard to get your head around, especially living our lives today, right? Everything's planned, scheduled. We define our lives by how certain they feel. Yeah, I've got my job. My health seems okay. I know what I'm doing tomorrow. But yeah, the deepest fear is always that sudden shock, isn't it? A war, a market crash, getting sick unexpectedly. We cling so hard to our certainty.
And that's the core shock here, the certainty we build, the thing we talk about and rely on. It's actually the biggest uncertainty there is. It's fragile, it's temporary, it depends on so many things staying the same, things we don't control.
But wait, I mean, the whole point of civilization, of society, is to create reliable systems, right?
Yeah.
I trust the lights will turn on, I trust my car will start, mostly. If that certainty is actually the biggest uncertainty, how do we even function day to day?
Well, yeah, the brain just naturally fights against this idea. It wants to hold on to the routine, the schedule, the things that feel solid. Go to work, follow the plan. But look closely. Unexpected stuff happens all the time, and it happens right inside that certainty we've built. A friend gets into a sudden accident, you get some completely unexpected health news, the company you work for suddenly downsizes. These things just puncture the illusion of solid ground.
So it's like our certainty is constantly being eroded. We think we're on solid land, but it's actually full of holes, full of these unexpected disruptions, full of uncertainty, really.
Exactly. That's the point. What we call certainty is riddled with not knowing, with uncertainty. And conversely, what we initially saw as total uncertainty, that original state in the water, that turns out to be the real absolute certainty, the thing that world events can't actually shake.
Okay, so if that's true, what do we do with that information? The sources talk about a process, right? We start by trying to make land out of the water, build our little islands of certainty, but then what? We have to give it back. We need to shift from trusting the certainty we made to trusting the uncertainty itself. That sounds scary.
It does sound scary, but think about the proof. It's pretty straightforward, often brutal. A person puts all their trust in some financial certainty, like a safe investment, and then suddenly, poof, it's gone. Market shifts, something nobody predicted. Or maybe even more fundamentally, someone gets a sudden diagnosis, a heart attack out of the blue. There are just endless things completely outside our control.
Yeah, and we resist seeing that fragility, don't we? Because we want more control. We want to feel like we can manage chance, randomness, the unexpected stuff that threatens our plans.
But it's an illusion, trying to control true uncertainty. Randomness, by its nature, always hits suddenly. Think about driving. You're careful, you follow the rules, you feel certain, but then someone else runs a red light. Boom. Or a sudden job loss because of some huge economic shift. A disability from an accident. It happens inside the areas we label as safe and certain.
The fear of flying example really hits this home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Statistically, driving is way more dangerous.
Right.
But people are terrified of flying. Why? Because on a plane, you're not in control. Not even subconsciously. You can't grab the wheel. You can't hit the brakes. That total lack of control, that zero certainty, it triggers panic.
Exactly. And this growing realization, maybe collectively, is pushing the world somewhere new. As things get more complex, more interconnected, well, maybe everything we thought was solid certainty starts to look a bit shaky. And maybe that forces us, slowly, to start putting our hope, our trust into the very thing we used to fear, the uncertainty.
But that uncertainty, it feels like chaos to us, doesn't it? Like anything could happen, total randomness. But the sources say it's not chaos. There's actually a pattern there, some kind of incredibly high understanding that our limited minds just can't grasp.
Right, our brain's default reaction is danger, stay away, stick to what you know. That's the instinct talking. But the truth, according to this perspective, is that the real wisdom, the deep, amazing potential, is actually in that place of not knowing.
So if we're looking for the ultimate certainty, the one thing that's truly guaranteed, the source material points somewhere unexpected. It's not our savings, not our health, not our plans. It's the end. For everyone. Rich, poor, doesn't matter who you are or what you believe. Returning to the ground, that, it says, is the absolute certainty.
And think about that. Death, which looks like the ultimate not knowing, the biggest uncertainty from our perspective, is actually the only thing that is 100% certain for everyone. It's the one thing nobody argues about, is it? And in a way, that shared, unavoidable reality brings a kind of, well, a strange peace to that one subject, at least.
Okay, so how does knowing this help us now in this life? The sources talk about buying space in the area of uncertainty. What does that mean practically?
Yeah, it's about learning to engage with it differently. And the idea is every little bit you manage to consciously buy or accept in that space of uncertainty, it gives you a different kind of certainty back. A certainty that lasts, apparently. A certainty the normal planning mind could never create on its own.
So the real goal isn't just building more land, more familiar certainty. It's learning how to navigate the ocean, how to turn that uncertainty, that place where you can't see the future clearly, into something stable, something like land.
Exactly. And let's try to define that uncertainty, or maybe call it coincidence, randomness, a bit more clearly here. It's described as something above the limit, something you can't know beforehand, something unexpected. And because it's unlimited, it means literally endless possibilities can emerge from it. Trillions of combinations coming from the future, potentially. Our minds, stuck inside their usual limits, just block this out. They can't process it, so they just label it uncertainty and try to avoid it.
But if you could learn how to tap into that, how to engage with those markets of uncertainty, as the source calls them, it sounds like embracing the not knowing is actually the key to finding huge power, real growth,
Yeah.
something that operates beyond our usual limits, beyond time even, and you can bring that into your own life.
That's the potential outcome, yes. The shift in perspective allows you consciously to take in what looks like uncertainty, but instead of fearing it, you see it as this field of possibility. And somehow you transform that into confidence, the result. Less fear, a lot less worry, more resilience.
Okay, so here's the final thought, the real challenge for the sources. When you get to a point where you feel safest walking on the water, meaning you actually trust the inherent absolute certainty of the unknown, of the water, then fear and worry just dissolve. You actually gain a kind of power to rule over life because you're not trapped by needing everything to be predictable and controlled. It allows you to use the endless nature of uncertainty right here inside our very limited lives.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. What things in your life do you label certainty? Where are you placing your deepest trust? Is it on the land you built, or could it be maybe in the water itself?
Welcome back.